Hi, I'm Kelly Sadler, the commentary editor at the Washington Times, and this is Politically Unstable. Today, I am pleased to have Erika Donalds, who is the America First Policy Institute Chair of Education Opportunity. And we're going to talk about, our nation's education system, the Department of Education, how it's not really educating our children, what needs to be done, and some more cultural issues that are a topic of concern, moving forward with our America First agenda. Erika, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Can you talk to us about the work that you're doing at America First Policy Institute and how our education department is failing our children? I've got 3 young boys, 2 are in public school, 1 is in private school. And the challenges that our children are facing in public schools.
Our biggest goal is to ensure that every student in the United States of America gets a great education and has a pathway to achieve the American dream. Unfortunately, our public education monopoly has totally failed the American people, despite massive investment at every level of government, local, state, and of course, the federal level. So one of the things that we are focused on, as promised by the president, is to dismantle the Department of Education, return the power of education to the states, and ultimately to the best decision makers in education, and that's parents. So far, Linda McMahon has really hit the ground running this year since her swearing in not just dismantling the department, but really empowering states with more power and accountability as federal funds continue to flow to ensure that students remain getting the services that they need and deserve. Civil rights violations are acted upon, workforce matters are attended to, but the federal Department of Education can stop wasting trillions of dollars on bureaucracy.
We spend thousands of dollars per student on public education, and we're not really seeing the results. I think that COVID really hit home to a lot of parents when their schools were shut down. There was remote learning. Parents started discovering what their kids were being taught and were horrified at the lack of public education. We're seeing it in the national test scores coming out of COVID as students return back into the classroom. They're just not earning the test scores that they need. They're not proficient in mathematics. They're not proficient in reading, but they're getting past grade to grade regardless. And a lot of them, we're seeing colleges now have to, Harvard of all places, having to offer remedial math for their incoming freshman class because they don't have the basic skills that equip you to be successful later in life.
Yeah, the United States have been falling behind academically before COVID. And COVID, of course, didn't help, but we haven't recovered from that either. We're seeing only 1 in 3 students in the United States of America are proficient in reading and math, which is not going to allow us to thrive as a nation and certainly not allow us to compete on the global stage. And despite spending $3 trillion at the federal level for the last 40 years at the Federal Department of Education, it has not improved outcomes. You mentioned, graduation rates are increasing and are higher than ever, and yet proficiency rates continue to drop or remain flat. So what does that tell us about high school graduation? We're giving students a diploma and often sending them off to college completely unprepared with the skills that they need to succeed.
So what needs to be done? I am a big proponent of school choice. However, I live in the state of Virginia. I am paying private tuition for my youngest to go to a Christian school. I yanked him out when the schools closed during COVID. He was only in first grade and he's about to graduate from that. And then he'll be entering the public system. But there's not a lot of resources available. And it depends on what state you're in. For families to have that option, especially if they don't have the money. We're all paying taxes, state taxes, which fund public education. But a lot of times we're limited in the resources that we have to look for alternative options like homeschooling, like private education, school choice to be able to determine what public school we want our children to go to, because a lot of times we're bound by whatever zip code we live in.
Yeah, and that's my passion as a former school board member, someone who's worked on state policy around the country. Ultimately, I believe that education freedom, school choice, and a free market in an education ecosystem is going to solve a lot of the education ills that we see in this country. But to your point, there are states like Florida and Arizona, soon to be Texas, and others that have education scholarship accounts that really give every single family the option to choose the education that's best for their kids. But that's not nationwide yet. We did just pass, thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill, the federal tax credit scholarship program. We're waiting on Treasury to make the rules associated with that, and that will go into effect on January 1st, 2027, where every single state, and we will pursue blue states as well, can opt into this program that allows for a dollar for dollar tax credit, and those dollars to be accumulated and used for private education, homeschool expenses, curriculum, online schooling, tutoring, and other special services. And we think that's a huge opportunity to diversify the states that are allowing for some private school choice, some financial help for families that really need out of the public system.
Can you talk to us more about that program? Because one of my pet peeves, and I've written about this for the Washington Times, is there was so much included in this one big beautiful bill. It indeed is one big beautiful bill, but because it packs so much, the American public really doesn't know what benefits are in store from them because of this historic achievement in getting this through Congress and on the president's desk to sign. We know about no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, but, expound upon, the school choice aspect in this bill. And will it apply nationally? Because we're talking red states, blue states. Will this be available to every American?
It really was a huge achievement for the school choice movement, something we've been working on for about 10 years now at the federal level. So it's a bit of an antiquated policy in that it's a tax credit scholarship, not an education savings account or education scholarship account. However, it's still the potentially largest expansion of school choice in the history of the country. What it allows for is a dollar for dollar tax credit, meaning it reduces your federal tax burden by every dollar you donate up to $1,700 per person to a qualified scholarship funding organization. Now, those are going to have to be approved in every state, which allows for the state governors to opt in or out of the program by either approving or not approving a list of scholarship funding organizations for this program. We believe, though, that ultimately blue state governors are going to see how much money is being donated out of their state if they don't participate, and that money is going to get used either way. It's either going to be used in their state to help students in New York, in California, or individuals in those states that want that tax credit and believe in school choice are going to donate elsewhere, and the money is going to be used in states elsewhere. So we think that's going to be very convincing as the program gets underway. But there are a wide variety of uses for these dollars. And of course, we're going to go back as soon as possible through Congress and try to increase that $1,700 to an even higher number.
So this is a donation. So it's going to a scholarship. The scholarship will decide which child is eligible, who select that child, and that child will get that scholarship to use at the school of their choice. So there's more to be done in the school choice arena, clearly. The president always says we want to dismantle the Department of Education. It's not serving our students. And I think that people are aware of that, everyone but the teachers' unions. But there's still so much more that can be done to enable and to empower parents at the federal level. Can you talk about some of the things that are working their way through Congress right now? Congress needs to actually dismantle the Department of Education. I know there's not going to ever probably be enough votes for Congress to say no more Department of Education at the federal level, but what other initiatives are working their way through Congress that can help parents out?
Well, what we would like to see Congress do and take up is portability of Title I and IDA funding. A lot of parents may not know that if their student is classified as low income or if they have a disability, the states actually get additional money for services for those students. But a lot of times, if your student does not attend a traditional public school, or maybe even if your student is a low income student that attends a majority higher income public school, they're not benefiting from those funds. And we would like to see parents be able to take those funds to the school of their choice, perhaps even use them for additional services. So let's say my child has special needs, attends a traditional public school, but I want to use a tutoring program or therapy that isn't offered at that school. I should be able to use those additional funds from the federal government and choose how they benefit my child. So I think that's an important reform that we're going to be looking for Congress to accept or look into. Of course, we have the filibuster, we have the parliamentarian, who is a big problem for us in the One Big Beautiful Bill process. So there are certainly barriers in Congress, but it's also all the more reason why we don't want the federal government so involved in education. As a parent, I can go to my local school, I can talk to the teacher, I can talk to the principal, I can even talk to the school board, but it's very difficult for me if I'm unhappy with something going on in my child's classroom or even in my school district to go up to the federal government and knock on the door and talk to the Secretary of Education to get that fixed. And so we want as much power as possible, as close to the parents as possible, so that they can provide feedback and accountability ultimately.
What do you say to the critics? Because you see Randy Weingarten out there all the time. It seems like she's advocating on behalf of the Democrats and the progressive cause, not on the behalf of the students and teachers that she represents. And there are a lot of great teachers out there that I've experienced through work with my 3 children. Teachers are definitely not the problem in achieving the education results that we want to. It seems like it is the system, but the system and the teachers unions say dismantling the Department of Education will lower the quality of education for all of our students. School choice basically drains the students from public schools that are going to make them less competitive. And all of the poorer students that don't have that choice or don't have the parents that are want them the best outcomes for them will be stuck in these failing schools, and the quality of education overall will go down. What do you say to that argument coming from the teachers unions and those that want to maintain the Department of Education at the federal level?
Randy Weingarten has proven for years to us that she is not fighting for the best needs of students, but for power for the union, not even really for the teachers. And that has become abundantly clear from the time that she was asking for schools to remain closed, calling it racist and callous for parents to want to advocate for open schools during COVID, to now where dismantling the federal Department of Education simply takes away that one source of power for the teachers unions, and where you and I know 98% of their donations are going to Democrats to maintain that source of power. Instead, what we want is for parents to be able to make decisions on behalf of their children. COVID, again, proved to us that the bureaucracy is not going to always act in the best interest of our children, and that parents are the ones who love their children the most and know them the best. If we allow for an education ecosystem to develop where parents are consumers and they are the ones making decisions on quality, on access, on safety, on values alignment, there will be a plethora of options for every single parent to choose from. In Miami-Dade County, which is a majority minority, majority low income, very large urban school district, 75% of students are attending a school that is not their zone school. So I will tell you that those parents that they are talking about that don't have enough information or don't care enough to make those decisions, they're already doing it in areas where they have options available to them. And it's insulting to those parents to say that they can't make decisions for their own kids, when we know that every parent, no matter how much money you make, no matter where you live, wants what's best for their children.
Absolutely, 100% right. And Florida is an example the rest of the nation can use in providing that choice. Erika, while I have you here, this is an ancillary topic, but it's also cultural. And it's something that has been bothering me since I saw the poll that came out. And I believe it was conducted by NBC this spring. And it asked young women, Generation Z, to prioritize what they feel is most important. What they prioritize in their lives. And if you went down the list, it was their career was number one. And then it was something, having the financial means to have a stable life. And then it was emotional well-being. At the very bottom of the list was having children, was getting married, and was religion. If you looked at Gen Z men, on the other hand, those three things were at the top of their list. And I believe this is a lot of Charlie Kirk's example with young men. But there's a lot of work to be done with young women. Why do you think young women are putting their careers above family, above religion, above, creating a nuclear family?
Well, the messaging that they've been getting for many years, in fact, decades, has told them that they need a career first, that they need financial security, and they shouldn't have to depend on anyone else. And it really has not upheld traditional family values. But that's why I am visiting college campuses all over the country. It's why I speak at Turning Point events, including their Young Women's Leadership Conference, because we need to give the message to these young women that statistics are proving out the happiest women are those who are married with children. And so while those messages have gotten through to these young women that career is more important and that's what they should focus on, actual happiness in our country comes from faith in God, comes from a stable family, home, and children that bring joy into your life every single day. And so it's women like us and Erika Kirk, who's done an incredible job as a warrior for this type of messaging, need to be out there and telling them the truth about it and really setting an example of those who are putting their families first and who are very happy because of it.
Well, poll after poll, if you look at, who is the happiest in life, who's the most satisfied in life, it shows it's those women who are married, who have children. You don't have to wait until you're in your 40s to have children. So you're financially stable, get married young, have children young, create that foundation and the stability there. And you can achieve anything. But I do agree with you. The messaging has been off. I grew up with everyone from the outside telling me that career was all that matters. Be strong, be independent, and then, good things will come to you. But I am so thankful that you're out there engaging with the younger generation and talking from your own personal experiences, because I think that that message needs to be heard.
Yeah, it's a joy to talk to these young women. I think they're really hungry for the truth. And, my husband and I met in college. We built a life together. I'm so thankful that even though those messages did get to me, I didn't think I would be getting married young. When you meet the right person, you just get started as a family, like you said, building that foundation. And I'm so blessed that I was able to do that. But yeah, getting a chance to talk to these young women and hopefully help to steer them in the right direction is a true blessing.
Well, Erika Donalds, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciated the conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.